The World Tomorrow. The Worldwide Church of God presents Herbert W. Armstrong.
And I'm here to bring you the truth. No one else is telling you the things that God is telling you through me. He's speaking through me.
The Lord let me experience what it is to be a new bride. You know, I'm not worried about what I'm about to say, though it may be graphic. We're coming to the Lord, and if you can take it, beyond the veil is the chamber. That's the wedding chamber. The Lord told me that.
But from then on, visions begin to come. When this comes up on me, it produces a vision. I'm able to tell people what's wrong with them, what they must do in life, and the sins that they are holding back in their life.
God is going to be moving mightily and fast like He never has before, both hastening in judgment and hastening in the fulfillment of His eternal plan for the sons of God.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Cult Next Door podcast. Before we jump into part 2 with Luna, just very quickly want to give those reminders. Go follow us on our socials if you haven't already: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We also have that new way for you to connect with us, which is you can leave a voice message with a question or a comment, and we might feature it on the show. We've actually had a few, and I'm going to probably over the next few weeks play some of those during these intros, so that'll be really cool. You can find the link for that in our Instagram bio or at the top of the episode description for the episode that you're listening to right now. So you can follow that link, click record, send us a voice message. We want to hear from you. Also, our double portion club shoutouts. Can't start an episode without giving those. Shanda and Chase, Heather Bartlett, Carla, and a new one, Julia B. Thank you all for supporting the podcast. If you, listener, would like to be a part of that club, that's $10 a month to get ad-free episodes and a shout out each week. Or you can pay $5 a month to support the work that we're doing, and you'll get ad-free episodes, and we'll send you a really cool Cult Next Door holographic sticker. We've actually had quite a few people sign up for the $5 a month support here over the past month or so. So thank you all very much for doing that. And now, without any further delays, let's jump into part 2 with Luna.
Oh my gosh. So when you left the church in Alaska, your parents stayed, right?
Oh, yeah.
And how was that? Like, is that when a rift started, where you kind of started the separation process?
Yes. So my husband wrote a letter to the group there. It was 6 pages, and it basically used the scriptures to spell out, we're off, guys. Even using the scriptures, we're in a mess here. We're following a false prophet. It's very clear in scriptures what to do when a man prophesies and it doesn't come to pass. You neither follow nor fear him. Like, it was so clear. He spelled it out very clearly, and he was like, we are so sorry for our part in building this, and we repent, and we won't be coming back. And at that point, we received a letter. But now we're in Argentina. Okay, we're like 10,000 miles away from Alaska.
Oh, that's where you moved?
Well, that's where we were. We went on a mission trip to Argentina.
Oh, okay.
Now, I have to say that was the way that his soul contrived to get us out. And I knew I would have never said it at the time. I would have never even allowed myself to think it or speak it. I knew that was our ticket out. And so we went down to minister to widows and orphans. And it was a place where the man that my dad had partnered with to start this group, he was the prophet of the group. My dad was the pastor of the group. He had been there before. So I think it was just his way of picking something that would have been approved by the leadership. And he was like, okay, the Lord told me that we're supposed to go on a mission trip to Argentina. And so he saved all summer, worked all summer long, saved up money. And then the 4 of us left in the fall of 2011, Argentina. And we planned to be down there a year. By the time he had deconstructed the situation and we had decided we were ready to go, it was about 5.5, 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we decided, well, we're not going to go back to Alaska, and we told them that, and they basically sent us back like a 3 or 4 line we accept your apology. Next time you have a word from the Lord, feel free to come speak it in person, and we will help you pack your things.
Hmm.
And then all the brothers signed it. So that was the response we got. I knew at that point we were shunned.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting on a swing in Cordoba, Argentina, at a park, watching my little girls play on the playground and weeping because I knew that everything I knew, everyone I loved was gone. And I would not have that again. And we were alone in the world. I mean, he and I and our 2 little children.
So your sisters had to shun you as well at that point.
Yes.
So you lost them too. Wow.
Yeah, I did. It was very lonely. And you know what? My dad always used to use a phrase, and I say it all the time. I wouldn't trade it for $1 million, and I wouldn't give you a nickel for any more of it. Like,
Yeah.
it made me who I am. It made me strong. It forced me to look at myself and my beliefs and who am I and what do I believe fundamentally. And so for that, I am eternally grateful. And, the last 12 years has been a process of me just journeying through everything that I've encountered in my past and, deconstructing many things, unlearning, deprogramming, and, finding myself.
Did it start, that deprogramming and unraveling? Did that start when you guys left, when you made that decision, when you were in Argentina and then you came back? Was that the beginning?
Well, I mean, it was the beginning of my allowing myself to think critically and question things.
Mm-hmm.
Up to that point, I had been afraid my entire life to have my own thoughts because somehow my dad always ferreted it out. And, what
Right.
I've learned about that personality type is that they're very tuned into energy and other people's uh, interaction with them. They can tell, are you with them? Are you pulling back? And so I think that was his way of knowing, thinking that the Holy Spirit was speaking to him. He was just very tuned into, was I on the same page or not? Was I with him? And so anytime he sensed any deviation from complete compliance and
Mm-hmm.
agreement, then he would hone in on that.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of me learning to allowing myself to even question anything. So I remember when we first moved here, the first major thing that I changed was how I dressed.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to my husband at the time and just saying, I've been considering wearing pants again. And he was like, go for it, And I said, well, I don't know. And he was like, look, you do whatever you want to do.
Wow.
And so the first time I went shopping, I couldn't even buy a pair of jeans, like full length jeans. I had to wear like a pair of capris, like not denim, like khaki, I mean, it just like I had to get there in increments.
Right. And at this point, it wasn't like your husband didn't disbelieve in God or Christianity altogether at that point, right? It was just that particular person was not God's prophet in his mind. So were you still looking for like a church home at that point?
We did attend a couple of small groups. And, it's really interesting. I used to think, it was the Spirit of God guiding us and drawing us, And I've come to see it a little differently now that energetically you attract things that are on the same vibrational frequency as you. So we were attracted to and attracted by people that were very similar to us.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite obvious how we believed from the way I dressed. I was always wearing dresses and skirts. So we kind of got in with a group that was similar to that. And that didn't last very long because I started wearing pants, and we were just kind of feeling like, I don't know, it seemed a little high control. It was Brother Branham.
Oh,
So they followed William
thanks.
Branham,
Yeah.
and they would get together and listen to Brother Branham tapes.
Mm.
So we went a couple of times, and then we were like, yeah, no. And then they found out that I was wearing pants. Well, I think I called the man's wife, and I just told her, if you see me around town, don't be shocked. I'm gonna start wearing pants sometimes. And at first she was like, well, whatever. I love you, however you dress, sister. But
Mhm.
when we didn't show up to the first church meeting after that, then her husband said to our friends who were also attending, oh, well, where's he at? Buying his wife a new pair of pants?
As all men do.
Outrageous.
I know, right? So I
Oh
don't know if I
gosh.
answered the question that you were asking, but we were still uh, believers and Christians. And I remember saying, whatever I end up landing on as far as the church and organized religion, I will just always love Jesus. Jesus will always be my savior. And, that's what I clung to for quite a few years
Mhm.
after that, because I was afraid to let it go.
Right.
Yeah,
But you did start you did start down that path of questioning
I did.
that, and did you resist that at first, or did you just kind of go with it?
I resisted it. I mean, it was such a process of deprogramming myself from the fear
Mhm.
of, um, I mean, I guess I probably would have at the time said it was the fear of God, and the
Mhm.
fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. You know what I mean? So I was
Yeah.
programmed with all of those scriptures. What it really was a fear of my dad, a fear of what he would
Yeah,
think of
sure.
me, the fear of complete and total rejection. Because by that point, I think we had reconciled. The group up there had uh, dispersed. That's a whole other story. But so I was kind of back in communication with my family. Um, and yeah, there was some fear around them knowing that I didn't fully believe what what I was raised with. That I was
Yeah.
questioning things.
Yeah. I mean, I've found that probably Maddie too, once you start to pull on the thread, like once you allow yourself to just start critically thinking, start questioning, but it is that huge hurdle that you have to get over, the fear of questioning and what that means, but once you can kind of let your guard down on that, man, it feels like you almost can't control the unraveling at that point.
Now, once you start, it sort of takes on a life of its own. And, I mean, to be fair, they always did say in religious circles, well, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So there is some truth to that. But I said to somebody recently who said, well, if you're wrong, no, he said, if I'm wrong, then, oh, well, I was wrong and there's no negative consequences. But if you're wrong,
Ugh.
and I said, you know what? I'm going to be frank with you.
Yeah.
I would rather be in hell than
Mhm.
be in heaven for eternity with a God who would do that to the children that he claims to love. That's just the truth.
Yes.
And whatever I believe I believe in a higher power. I believe in source,
Mhm.
in God,
Mhm.
if you want to use
Mhm.
that term. I think it varies for many people, but I just don't believe in the hyper authoritarian God who's going to throw you in hell if you don't believe in something. I just feel like any all powerful being would not need that. So
No, it just feels like we're just applying like human characteristics and human logic, and like if the human reaction to being rejected is anger, and we're applying that to a supreme being that is supposed to be pure love, and that just doesn't go together. It's like you said, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance involved, I think, in believing that. You have to.
so true. And as I have gone down this path, I realize I am much more loving than I ever was before. I'm much more accepting of people. I'm less judgmental.
Mhm.
It's like I have acquired more love for myself, and it has allowed me to love my neighbor as myself. I couldn't do that before because I didn't love myself. I was a wretch. I was a worm. I was filthy, filthy rags. And
Yeah.
how do you love yourself? And how do you love others from that perspective? I couldn't do it. Um, so I feel free. I feel free to just be who I am, who the creator created me to be, and to love others exactly as they were created. And I don't have to judge anybody on their path. I mean, I have dear friends and family who are still professing Christians, very religious, some of them. And I love them just as
Mhm.
much as I ever did. Like I
Yeah.
don't care what you believe. Are you a loving person? Do you treat others with respect and care and compassion and empathy? Well, I don't care what you believe. If
Right.
that's the fruit, that's good in my book.
Right. I agree with that. I think that's part of what I learned as well. And I think I grew up hearing how scary it would be to be an atheist or not. And when I say atheist, I really just mean, I understand what you're talking about, a source being a higher power, and you could call that God. But typically, in the context of talking to anybody, we're talking about the God of the Bible, So,
Right.
so when I say that, that's what I mean. But I always thought that was a scary thing to be an atheist. And oh my gosh, you have no moral guardrails. And like, why would you be this kind, generous, loving, empathetic person if you don't have God telling you how to do that? And I have found the exact opposite, just like you have, that no, it's like, actually for me, it feels like it's coming from a more genuine, deeper place inside me. Just loving other fellow human beings, and understanding how flawed we all are, and not like not being kind because I'm trying to either avoid this horrifyingly awful punishment of eternal torment, or you know um store treasures up in heaven or whatever. I just feel like those external things are not genuine compared to what we find that is already inside ourselves. I think at birth, I just really believe we already have everything that we need. We weren't taught how to tap into it or recognize it.
So true. And I feel like, purity culture, excuse me, has taken those principles, and it's created this dynamic between men and women based on the premise that um, men are a certain way and they can't control themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a fallacy. And then it's put the onus on women to not be a stumbling block and not be a temptation. And it's just like this
Mhm.
vicious cycle. And I don't think either is true. And so I
I
feel
agree,
like it's
yeah.
done a complete disservice to men and women. And I feel like it's almost harmed boys more than girls to some degree, because they feel like they are just these animals that can't control
Mhm.
themselves. And it's like they're conditioned to believe that instead of just knowing that these are normal urges and
Yeah.
this is how we navigate the dance between the masculine and the feminine in
Mm-hmm.
respect and consent.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? And so I feel like
Yeah.
religion has doubled down on the whole, you're a filthy sinner thing and permeated society with purity culture. And oh my gosh, it's just like, it's so far reaching. And I'm just doing everything I can to um, help dismantle that.
Yeah. And it's nice when you think, you have daughters that you can show them a different way. And I feel that too when I see my middle child having confidence that I never had and not being burdened by those elements of purity culture, even though I do think they're still permeated throughout our culture, especially where we are, like in the Bible
Yes.
Belt. But when you think about like that upbringing, and then, obviously you were in that for quite some time in your adult life, what are the things that stand out the most? You have talked about purity culture, so I assume that's one. Like, for example, for me, the lake of fire, the great tribulation, the constant threat of demonic influence. Those were really big things for me that I had to um reprocess as I've gone through the healing process. So I'm curious, like, what were your things?
Yeah, the same. But the more fundamentalist we became, the more judgment centric our gospel got. So I feel
Mhm.
like uh, a God of destruction, a God of wrath was put more on a pedestal. And
Yeah.
it does create that cognitive dissonance because if you're told that God is love, but that he's wrathful, I mean, this is just kind of a weird case in point, but in the group that we were in Alaska, I was somewhat of a scribe and I operated in the gifts of the spirit,
Mhm.
word of wisdom, word of knowledge. And I kept track of the prophecies that would take place in our church meetings. And so I had a destruction journal. Like, what? I
Wow.
had a journal that I kept when I listened to the news of all the bad things that were happening in our country and the world, because we were waiting for the destruction of America. That was prophesied by
Yep.
what Brother Branham. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. In your wing of things, Worldwide Church of God, what was prophesied there. But then even our particular prophet specifically prophesied some destruction in America.
Mhm.
So that really formed my worldview. Um,
Mhm.
so that, and then purity culture, that was just so damaging. Um, and then just the hierarchical submission of women to
Mhm.
men. I
Mhm.
mean, I remember a time in my mid 20s when my dad started grooming my younger brother, both of them really. They were 3 and 6 years younger than me, to subdue me in order to prepare them for marriage someday because they were going to subdue a wife one day. And so I was being groomed to submit to all men in the form of my two younger brothers, and they were being groomed to subdue women. And it was
Right.
very damaging to our relationships. So, yeah.
And that goes back to your point about how damaging it is for boys too, because we do tend to focus on the damage to women in purity culture. But
Yeah.
you are taking a young boy that has their own set of emotions and sensitivities and all of this stuff, and you're warping so much of who they actually truly are. And I find that to just be so that I have a soft spot, I guess, because I have two sons. And then when I left, Maddie was really little and Michael was little, and I adored them, and just the thought of, I remember them when they were little, and my own boys, and the thought of like molding that into something, honestly grotesque, to
Yes.
just be told like you can't control yourself, therefore women have to do these things. And then there are some men who aren't naturally inclined to be control freaks. I mean, like our dad, we've talked about this so many times. He just slid right into that role. Like, I think he relished in it, but there are some that never wanted to be dominating someone else and telling someone else how to be and what to do, and yet they're expected to do that in these groups with the women in their lives. It's so awful.
It is awful. I've had to really do a lot of forgiveness work around that, because I felt like my
Yeah.
relationships with my brothers, who were very dear to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
were changed forever. And how do you undo that? I don't know. I mean, you can recognize it and you can, forgive, but it fundamentally changes the dynamic.
It does. And they have their own work to do so that you
Exactly.
can both like come together equally, as equal counterparts. So,
And it's been beautiful for me to watch both of
yeah.
my brothers deconstruct
Mhm.
this and unpack it. And,
Yes.
um, they've changed a lot, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful, but it's like that it had never happened in the first place in some ways.
Right. I know all of that for me really engendered a sense of mis like distrust in men. And I still deal with that. And I had to remind myself of the men in my life who I know, who I can trust. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's so ingrained. It's just hard to override. And I know a lot of that came from the church, indirectly, like our father. Yeah, he didn't want his girls to trust any men because like he wanted to control what happened there. But then that has had long-term effects, where I've had to really grapple with my feelings towards men because it's not congruent. My strong feelings are not congruent with what I know about some of the men in my life. you know.
Is so true. I mean, it's that way with my relationship with men, with even the world. I remember when I first came out of high control religion and I was starting to navigate just the world, my relationship
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
world and worldly people, right? Did you ever see the movie The Village?
Wait, was that the M. Night Shyamalan
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I did. It's been a long time. But
Yeah,
yeah.
well, it's been a long time for me too, but that
Yeah.
really changed me when I saw that. And at the very end, when the young woman gets to she gets to the through the forest, and
Mhm.
she encounters the guy, guarding the perimeter of whatever the park is, and then he gets her the penicillin, and she's blind, so of course she can't see him. She just hears him, and she says, "I hear kindness in your voice.
Mm.
I did not expect that." And I just broke. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, because
Yeah.
I was conditioned my whole life to believe that anyone outside of my beliefs and my religious construct was evil and hurtful and out to do me ill. And when I
Yeah.
came out and so many people helped us, I mean, we were destitute. We didn't have jobs. We moved to this new town, sight unseen, with two little children. And then the people that showed up for us with love
Mm.
and care and help. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I've been lied to. Like,
Yeah.
and then I saw that movie and I was just like, yeah, and I understand they wanted to protect their children, right? Because they'd been
Mhm.
harmed, but they used uh, a false method. They used something that wasn't true in order to keep them safe. And it didn't work. It backfired. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
just made me really grateful to be getting free and being able to navigate the world for myself and learn to trust my gut to guide me. And, because I was never trained to trust myself. So,
Did you ever read that book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell?
no.
It's really excellent, but I think it was Oprah. Oprah recommended that every woman needs to read this, and it is about your gut instinct and actually what's physiologically going on in your body and in your brain, and all of these like little micro observations that are happening there that are even in the subconscious, and what that really is. And that was actually helpful for me when I was trying to learn how to do that after never doing that my entire life, or feeling that feeling and ignoring it and bypassing it. So
Yes.
that book was really
Yes.
helpful if anybody listening wants to check that out.
I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds great.
Yeah, it is really good. Okay, so this might be totally off topic, but when you first emailed us, you did mention the FBI being involved in one of these groups. And I'm like, I don't want to end this conversation before we talk about that.
Yeah, that was the Ralph Stair group. So,
Okay.
after we moved here, I got to be part of a Facebook group of people who used to be a part of that cult,
Mhm.
or and it came to my attention that the FBI was investigating him. And
Mm.
so I contacted them as part of my healing process, just to say, I was part of this group. I'm
Mm.
happy to share what I witnessed. I was never a victim, but I
Right.
was there for 3.5 years as an adult woman. And so
Mhm.
they came to the town that I live in and
Oh, wow.
interviewed me for a couple of hours. An agent, and then she was, I don't know, she wasn't an FBI agent, but she was like an emotional counselor or something, a
Mhm.
therapist.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and they interviewed me, and they had told me that they were going to call me to testify, not because I was a victim, but because I could articulate the
Mhm.
the culture. Um,
Mhm.
and turns out that he passed before that could ever take place. Um, which I was a little bit relieved about, to be honest. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I'm sure that would have been hard.
yeah, yeah. I think there was a documentary being worked on about that story. I don't know whatever happened to it. I heard from
Hmm.
somebody else that used to be there. Um, but yeah, that was quite a trip.
Yeah. I had heard of him. But
The last day prophet of God.
I'm not sure why. I'd have to like look that up and see if it sparked any memories, but I do remember knowing about him.
Yeah, he was pretty well known in
Mhm.
shortwave circles. He was
Okay.
in Walterboro, South Carolina. That's where we lived. We were 3.5 years in that group and never left the compound. And it was quite. I mean, if I wanted new underwear, I had to tell his wife, and they went to Walmart to get them, kind of
What?
thing. We had a clothing room where we just rotated clothing. We grew almost all of our own food. Uh, I cooked for 75 to 100 people a couple times a week. Um, yeah, it was interesting.
That was during your time in Alaska
No, that was
or
before
somewhere?
Alaska. So
Oh,
that was
okay.
like 95 or 96 to 99. And then we moved
Okay.
to Alaska in the fall of 99, right before Y2K.
So you were literally in a compound unable to leave.
Unable to leave. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you're not supposed to leave, yeah.
No, I mean, right. I mean, if you do, then you're not part of the group. Like, and they made it so that pretty much all of our needs were met. You know what I'm saying? So it's not
Right, like
like
you didn't need to leave.
I didn't need to go grocery shopping. I didn't need to go to the bank. I didn't need to, I didn't have a job. Um, we worked on the farm. Yeah, we went to church there. We built a tabernacle there and stayed there. When we first moved there, they had church on another location that they
Mhm.
called the campground, and we would take a school bus to that Friday night and Saturday. We observed the Sabbath during those years, um, so we had Sabbath service. But then eventually they built the tabernacle at the farm, and we never left or anything.
Wow. How many people do you think were there?
It fluctuated between 75 and 100, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, including children.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so much. Like your entire life was kind of marked by all of these different high control groups. Like that. I thought we had a lot with Maddie was involved in, I guess, 3, and I was involved in a couple, but my goodness. Yeah. Is there
Yeah.
like, is there anything else about the upbringing or any pivotal moments or anything that you wanted to share? Because I don't want to miss anything if there was something like you were that was important to you.
I just, in thinking over my life and what I would say to people who find themselves either in a high control situation, whether it's a family or a church group, um, or are coming out and beginning the healing process, or at any point in the healing process. There are several things that I've learned that I want to tell everyone, like, you can trust yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that ability to know what's right for you is innate to every human. And you can trust that, and don't allow anyone to tell you that you don't know what's best for you. Even if you make mistakes, even if you make a choice that you later think, maybe that wasn't right, you still made it and you can own it. And
Yeah.
just be your authentic self. Like, if you go somewhere and you're with people that you cannot be who you truly are, and they don't celebrate you for who you are, that's not where you belong. And the medicine that I found has been in my ability to process this and begin to speak my truth and to
Mhm.
tell my story. There's so much medicine in that for me, and to sit
Yeah.
in spaces where people hold space for me, and where it's safe. And I always tell people, be as vulnerable as you are safe to be, because there is so much healing in that. And usually what I find when I'm vulnerable and I share my story, it gives other people permission to also be vulnerable and tell their story. And I don't think there's really any way to heal outside of that ability to be who you are and tell your story. So
I agree. You have to put that into the light, and then the shame dissipates and you find strength. It's just really hard, that first step. I know that's tough for a lot of people.
yeah, I mean, even coming on this podcast for me was
Yeah.
like, it was so funny how many times it got postponed, the recording. And
Yeah.
every time I said, okay, there's another layer. And it's like the whole healing process is like layers of an onion. And I peel back
Yeah.
another layer. And
Yeah.
there were several things that I came up against in myself at the thought of telling my story on a more public forum. And
Yeah.
I had to sit with it, and I had to work through it, and I had to,
Mhm.
deconstruct that and figure out, okay, where's this coming from? And tell myself the truth and heal that. And so um, it's just so valuable.
Yeah. So as you've gone through this healing process, are there any specific things that worked for you that you might recommend to other people?
hmm Yeah. So I did EMDR, and
Mhm.
that really helped me to reframe some of my trauma in safer
Mhm.
places. Um, I did. I practiced Ho'oponopono, which is
Mhm.
the 4 phrases,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And that
Mhm.
was really good, not only for me in my relationship to other people, but also to myself, to forgive myself, to, and speaking to my inner child, or um, the iterations of myself that were not as strong as I find myself today.
Mhm.
So I actually used to sing that to a little tune to myself. I found that really healing. Sitting circle with other women has been hugely healing for me. Just being able
Yeah.
to share, like to feel into my body. What am I feeling? Where do I feel
Mhm.
this in my body?
Yeah.
And uh, just to be and feel, and then to be able to express that to other people in a safe space that holds space for that and honor and validate me. That's just been really healing. And I actually did MDMA once with a therapist, and that was
Yeah.
huge for me. I mean, the thing I found about that experience was, so, I I didn't even drink alcohol till I was 21 years old.
Mhm.
Never had any experience with THC until I was in my 40s. So anything that expands my mind and allows me to think outside of this little box that I was conditioned to live inside in my mind
Mhm.
has been really healing for me, because it's allowed me to expand the things that I even consider. So when
Right.
I did MDMA, I found myself verbalizing my path, my journey, and I started back at childhood, and all of these traumatic experiences that I went through. I was telling this story to my therapist, and what I found was I had this concept of myself that I was very weak and that I never had my own voice and that I never was strong. And what I saw in reliving that was the times that I did speak up for myself and the times that I did stand in my own strength. And it just reframed everything for me because I hadn't remembered those things. I had this concept of myself that I was weak and that I was always controlled, and it just wasn't true. And what I saw was I showed as much strength as it was safe for me to show, and all of those things about me are still there. I maintained
Yeah.
that through my life,
Mhm.
even in the
Yep.
traumas. And now I'm just free to fully be that with expression.
Yeah.
So and then the whole sense of just that I am love. I
Mhm.
felt that so much throughout my whole body. Um, yeah, it was just a really beautiful experience, and I found it very healing.
I love that. I've looked into not as much MDMA, but psilocybin, ketamine,
Yes,
ayahuasca,
ayahuasca.
those types.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I do love the idea of the expansiveness that it seems to give people and the perspective on their own experiences that maybe they can't fully have when they're just normal in their body. So it sounds like the MDMA was really powerful for you, like a powerful step. And I think also importantly, you had a therapist guiding you, right?
Yeah, I wasn't, at a
Yeah.
party or concert.
Right. Right. I mean, that's the only context I've even thought about any of these things in, is like definitely would want with a trained therapist who can really guide you so you can get the best therapeutic effect of that. Um yeah, that's awesome. And also EMDR is
It
also
was so
really helpful.
yeah,
I've done that as well.
yeah,
But
yes. And
yeah.
talk therapy. I did some somatic
Oh yeah.
therapy, just
Yeah.
releasing things from my body because we do trap traumas in our bodies. So, um,
100%.
yeah, I've done tapping, I mean, just all the things, shaking. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done any breath work?
Yes, I have. I have
Yeah.
not. So I had an opportunity recently, and I couldn't go. But I want to look more into that because I feel like that has an ability to, what is it, release the DMT without any
Yeah.
substances, and it can
Yes.
really change the way that you interact with yourself and your past and your traumas. So, have
Yeah.
you done it?
Yes. I I did holotropic breath work with a group, and it I didn't know what it was. I think we had done a meditation before, and then we went into this breathwork class, and the instructor encouraged us to get into any type of, yoga position that felt comfortable. And I was in child pose. And, um, and we were doing this rhythmic breathing where you're really kind of hyperventilating, and I was like completely taken aback by the emotions that came up. Like it felt overwhelming. And I guess that was when I went into child's pose, because I was in another pose, and then I like went down into that, and I immediately started crying. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I did not understand the
Yeah.
therapeutic effect that it can have. And then, of course, I did a deep dive after that and was like, ordering books and like, what is this? And I want to do this again,
Yes.
And in the group, it was only 10 of us, I think. Several other people were having similar experiences. And when it was over, I know one girl left the room and she just had to she was crying really hard, that is really, I think, an interesting thing about somatic experiencing is that like you are able to kind of process some of those emotions and get them out of your body without having to go through every single detail in, talk therapy, because that's not necessarily easy for everyone.
No, it's not, and, I it reminds me of a session that I did, somatic therapy with the therapist that I did talk therapy with, who I eventually
Mhm.
did the other DMA. But
Yeah.
I remember the first time she had me on the massage table, and she was, just touching lightly various parts of my body, and I felt very safe with her.
Mhm.
We ended up becoming very good friends. But I remember, it was all good, and I was breathing through it, and then she got up to near my head, and she put her fingertips, like, right on my heart, and I
Mm.
lost it. I mean, I had been
Yeah.
doing fine up to that point, and then I just started
Yeah.
sobbing, and
Mhm.
she just stood there, and I just sobbed it out. I mean, and I don't even know
Yeah.
what I was releasing at that point, but
Yeah.
it was something, and my body knew, and I just
Yeah.
think it's so valuable. I mean, I think we spend our whole lives trying to repress our emotions, and
Mhm.
really, there's so much cleansing and healing in our tears and our ability to, I mean, sometimes I'll just wail. I will just allow
Yeah.
myself, like, I'll put on a movie that I know is gonna make me cry, and I don't even really know, like, there's not even necessarily a connection in my mind to the movie and what I've experienced, but
Right, right.
it will just start that flow of emotion for me, and I will, especially if my children aren't home, I will just allow myself to wail it out, and,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's just so healing.
Yeah. How do you feel after that?
Just, like, clean, like I had a soul bath, a soul shower,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. I've done that too with music. Like, is
Mhm, me
certain,
too.
certain songs will just get me, and sometimes I'm feeling melancholy and I don't really know why, and I'm like, I think I just need to get something out. So let's start the tears.
Actually saying I'm having a bad day, I need to listen to some Wham and just work
Wham.
this out.
Yeah, that's it. Honestly, okay, one song that really spoke to me was Taylor Swift's Tears Ricochet. And it's the lyrics. I connected so much, like from my experience with our dad and growing up and losing the family. And I cannot listen to that without crying. It's like a gut punch. So I avoid it unless I want to cry. And then I can put it on.
Yeah, I have songs like that too. And I'm very connected to music. Music moves me. It's part of my upbringing. It's part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's in my fabric. And so, yeah, I use music that way a lot. And yeah, just let her rip. Just cry it out.
Oh gosh. Okay. Is there anything else that all the things that you said about healing here at the end is part of what we were going to ask you as the closing question. So you kind of already did that.
No.
Which is great. I don't know if you have any parting words for people who are going through their own healing journey, or maybe even haven't started yet, but that could be helpful.
Well, yes. And it comes to what else I wanted to say to the two of you. And that is just how grateful I am for podcasts like yours, and to yours in particular, because I so resonated with your story because of the aspect of the family cult. It wasn't just high control religion. It was our family structure that was so controlling. And so for you to be here and tell your story and have the guests that you do, I literally have listened to your entire library more than once. I mean, just this morning I was listening to the most recent one you did, and it's taken me to other podcasts, and I literally spend most of my time listening to podcasts about cult recovery, etc. And so that's what I usually tell people: listen to some podcasts. See where you find yourself in other people's stories, and let it empower and embolden you to tell your own story and on your own healing journey. And I just find so much inspiration and ideas and just solidarity. I mean, just knowing I am not the only one that lived a story like this, and that you can come out the other side and not stay in a place of victimhood, and find your power and find your voice and be victorious in your life. And you don't have to let that dictate what the rest of your life looks like. You can be who you came here to be.
Yes, so powerful.
So thank you.
No, thank you so much. This is really a great talk. I love talking about all things healing. And I feel like that will be really helpful for our listeners as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
If you like this episode, please go leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever that is. If it's Apple, Spotify, or another service, it's really helpful. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notified when we have new episodes and updates and things like that. Thanks, and we'll talk to you all again next week.